Howdy. So does Neon Genesis Evangelion, the original series, suck? Yes. No. Shit. Kinda. Listen, it has some good parts, but it's also very flawed. I mean, the main component of this ranking is just whether or not I would recommend it most of the time, and honestly, I don't think I would. So let's play a guessing game. I've got 3 images here. What are they? Image 1? Image 2? Actually, let's get rid of image 3. Anyways, if you said an octahedron and a circular helix, you would be correct. But if you said enemies of mankind, you would be more correct. So yeah, this is some wacko shit here, but this is one part of what makes this show interesting. The enemies, referred to as the angels. So the fights with the angels are, in essence, duels against otherworldly creatures. Well, the humans have more numbers, so they're unfair duels, but still, every angel works alone, and they're all heading to a specific place for a specific reason. And these are very important aspects because it keeps the show focused on a single, more digestible target. There's one group of behaviors to watch, one set of attack patterns to counter, one set of problems for the viewer to understand. Some angels even have a big red core, so yeah, target that thing. And a simple setup is good because many of them are abstract and essentially puzzles that have to be observed and understood to be dealt with instead of just raw fighting. And this is a big part of the fun, seeing how the characters and the best humanity has to offer have prepared their little fortress ahead of time to learn more and combat each approaching enemy. I should add, though, many of the later episodes seem to have more emotional victories, which they're not inherently bad, but they are a bit less satisfying to see over and over as opposed to the beginning episodes. The angels come from the sea, they come from inside the earth, space, seemingly anywhere, and in all shapes and sizes. I mean, don't be surprised if you could draw some of them with your eyes closed. But they're so compelling because they're just so different, so creative. Like if you watch the show and aren't the least bit surprised with them, I guess you've just led a richer life than I have. They're also set to some great anxiety-inducing tunes. Few shows have so many good justifications for their premise. Why giant robots? Well, they can't use conventional weapons because of something called an AT field. What's an AT field and why does a robot have one? Well, in short, it's a shield. And for the latter question, you'll find out as you watch. How do humans know how and when to fight the angels? Well, they've seen one before. Why are the pilots kids and why is Shinji so necessary? Yes, there's an actual reason for this, and it isn't just because his father is the boss. Why isn't Shinji's father nicer to Shinji, even though he is necessary, and being nice isn't that hard? I don't know, actually. Stress? I mean, I guess he's just an asshole. Look, not all of it is perfect, but I quite like how they constructed the world and show science, most of it being pseudoscience, as the essential method that mankind has to solve everything. And boy, are they good at explaining that pseudoscience. Usually presented with technical word salad alongside visual aids to know how the situation is changing, and it's all delivered with a very convincing confidence. Sometimes it can be a bit much, and don't you love to hear how a signal never responds or works?
It's not accepting the eject code. What about the backup codes? Also refuse.
Geez, you think they'd be less surprised. I also really like the geofront and all the prep work done to prepare from attacks from all conceivable angles. And especially how even with that prep work, they're still rushing and ill-prepared. It's hard to understate how prevalent mental anguish is in Evangelion. In such a time of great stress, it's understandable that the characters, many of them being teenagers, would suffer emotionally and mentally. One common complaint I hear about the show is that Shinji is a wimp and a complainer, which makes him a boring character. And this complaint has always surprised me because I think his issues are precisely what makes him a great character. I mean, he doesn't do what a normal, boring hero would do. He's used to being in the background, unwanted and overlooked, so it's not surprising when he's presented with an opportunity to save the world by his father, an opportunity many would jump at, he is skeptical of it, and his father. I mean, given his past, why would he not be? The Shinji at the beginning of the series is a baseline to witness growth. We see him challenge himself and those around him, become more confident, and gain his own goals and ambitions. Does he manage to solve everything? No. And I think his issues are serious enough that he wouldn't be expected to. The journey is the point, and it is quite a ride that he isn't alone on. Really, many of the characters have some internal strife that they have to navigate. Problems dealing with depression, abandonment, detachment, anxiety, failure, and other issues that I think are very grounded. Sure, the setting is extreme, but I think most people could relate to them on some level. The show teaches a lot about parenting, too, Observe. That's the kind of relationship you can only build with 14 years of neglect. Okay, so big disclaimer. I'm going to spoil the ending of the series, which really, the entire lead up to the ending sucks. I made sure not to spoil the other parts of the series I think are good, so just stop watching if you don't want it spoiled. Once again, though, it sucks, so I really don't think you're missing much. So the enemies are good, the premise and pseudoscience are good, and the characters' journeys are good. So what's wrong? You're now part of a focus group, and I'm going to present you with two show concepts. One, a group of elites want to merge all of humanity and evolve them into a transcendental abstract level of existence, i.e., one living being. Two, after a globally devastating event, humanity unites to challenge a prophesied group of alien beings set to eradicate them. Which one of these concepts sounds the most interesting? A very subjective question, sure, but I think we can all agree that one is much simpler to reconcile than the other. A new level of existence is something that really brings forward the question why. And with this, a lot of philosophy and comments on the human condition. Why is merging all humans a goal? Why is an abstract level of existence better? The show speaks that merging will erase all flaws and insecurities, but this is such an intangible idea that I've never found it or the philosophical questions very compelling. In short, it's boring. It's a boring goal with trite justifications. And if you don't believe me about the trite, let's listen to why.
Yes, there is an emptiness at the very core of our souls. A fundamental incompleteness that has haunted all beings since the very first thought. On a primal level, man has always been aware of the darkness that resides at the core of his mind. We have sought to escape from this void and the fear it causes, and all man's accomplishments were made in the hope of filling it.
And if all the souls are in one body, who controls the arms? The legs? The other show concept is dead simple. Survival. It's a race against the clock. What are the enemies? Why do they want to destroy humanity? How does humanity even fight them? Great questions. They could pull the audience in more as the show goes on. Everyone can understand the central idea of humanity being challenged by aliens. Evangelion is both of these concepts. It starts strong on the survival plot, but as the show gets closer to the end, it dives headfirst towards the philosophy, confusing symbolism, confusing motivations, and Seele, a group that wants to use the Avas to merge humanity together. Every scene with Seele makes me want to claw my eyes out. Every word out of their mouths is pretentious garbage. Listen for yourself.
There is one man who is trying to obtain the power of God.
There is a man who is not one of us, who seeks to reopen Pandora's box.
There is a man attempting to close the box before the hope at the bottom appears.
The hope. You're saying this is the Lilim's hope?
Hope exists in as many forms as there are people.
For the human heart is the only place where hope exists.
However, our hope is becoming substantiated.
When you have this much exposition as pure dialogue, you have a problem. They, as characters, are so underexplained and their motivations make little sense. Want to fire Gendo? Just do it already and take over his job. Want to let an angel into the complex? Well, why allow Shinji to fight back? Why let Masato investigate the complex? They control this shit, right? They work so hard to cause this human merging in a specific way to suit their needs, but when it actually happens with Shinji and Rei triggering it, they seem to be fine with it. What? What do they actually care about? Didn't this go against their goals? How can every group be satisfied with the merge when each has their own specific idea of going about it? And after all that, Shinji just chooses to reject the merge because he decides that the joy of connecting with others outweighs the risk of being hurt. Yep. The show goes from to deciding if connecting with others is worth being hurt. A question that could be interesting in a character's personal struggle, but as being the finale of 15 duels, it's a very unsatisfying departure. The original direction is just so much more compelling to me. Overall, I like so many bits and pieces of it, but for a show that prides itself so much on the mystery and the building up to something, and it just turns out to end on such a whiff, it makes it really hard to recommend to anybody who isn't part of that crowd of the all too common mantra of it's a good show with a bad ending. Really, I mean, it's not like it matters that much anyways. I mean, it's not like the franchise has made that much money, like only like 700 billion yen.